Hi everybody. So hopefully I'm live. We'll see if everything's working this evening. Since Facebook likes to change everything every week, let's see. All right, make sure you say something when you come in to make sure I can see it. I'll type something too. Hopefully, if I can spell, that is, tonight. There we go. I can't spell very well. Oh, Colleen got in here. I can see Colleen's comment. Good. Yeah, it's funny because Facebook's really been doing a lot of changing the last few weeks. So hopefully, can everybody hear me all right? Cool. So everybody's hearing me? Great. Yeah, I've had a hard time with Facebook, and my friend Connie has classes that she teaches every week too, and she's been having trouble also with things not functioning quite correctly or change the way they function. So cool. Oh, we got people coming in. Awesome. So people are finding me. Now, was it easier to find me this week? You were easier to find the video this week? I figured out why you couldn't find me last week, so I fixed the events, so they should be okay. Is sounding good? Good. I may have to turn the air conditioner back on, guys. I'm not sure if I can leave it off or not. It's hot in here. I've got the fan moving, but oh my gosh, it gets so warm in my sewing room. It's like 80 degrees in here. Hi, everybody. Awesome. So everybody's hearing me all right. Great. Great. I think it does help if I leave the air conditioner off because I don't think you get that background noise as bad. So I think the microphone's better then. So I'm going to try to leave it off, but we'll see. If I can't stand it, I'll go turn it back on again. I wished it would cool down so that I wouldn't have to run the air conditioner all the time. I get tired of running it. I run it from about April till, November usually. So, hi Kathy, hi Margaret. So all kinds of people here. Hi Marcia. So we're going to do something really fun tonight. This is something, I haven't done one of these style of Janine Babish's before. Janine Babish has a lot of designs, and Lynn's been doing all those cute little triple stand designs, but she also has several other designs and different styles, and she has some table runners, and she has some really long wall hangings that are like 3 feet long, and she has the set of they're 12 by 20 or 12 by 14, and I wanted to try one. So this is a brand new one. It's with a Grateful Heart, and this is the brand new one that just came out this fall. It came out, I think, maybe like in August is when I was able to finally get it, or September. And I had never done one of these before. She has lots of other ones. If you look on our website, there's a fall, winter, spring, and autumn one, and then there's a birthday one, and there's a Christmas one that has 3 of them, and then I think there's like an inspirational sayings that has 3 designs in it. So she has a whole series of these. And they're really kind of fun because they're just a little bit bigger. You can hang them on the wall because they're a little bit larger. So I struggled a little bit because when Janine makes these, she does these with fusible fleece, and she doesn't quilt them. And so I struggled a little bit with my first one because of the fusing instead of the quilting. So I've got 2 ways that I'm going to do this tonight to show you. I actually like them both, but I did change a little bit the way she did it. I made it a little different so that it would not be wrinkly. So normally when I use fusible fleece, so I'm going to show you my first attempt here. This is the first one I made, and I did it exactly the way she told me to do it. And what she said is, to do your embroidery, and then what you do is she had you mist the whole front of this. And I don't know if you can see, but as soon as I saw mist, I'm like, uh-oh. So she had you mist it, and then put your fusible fleece on the back of this front part, and then iron it down. So I don't know if you can see how wrinkly that is. Anytime that I touch my embroidery with iron, it always turns out wrinkly. So I just knew it was going to be. So it is kind of wrinkly. I didn't really care for this. And it looks fine, you know. I mean, especially if you hold it back a little bit. I mean, it looks fine. It's pretty, and it looks fine. But I just wasn't super happy with it. So I played a little bit with the pattern. So I've made several of these now. So I'm going to put that one aside. So that was my first attempt. So I wanted to do it like the instructions said, but I didn't want it to wrinkle. So what I ended up doing is I made a second one, and this one's also fused, and I did the embroidery. I didn't have any trouble with that. But then what I did, instead of fusing and putting an iron on my embroidery, which I normally don't like to do, I actually turned it over and I fused the fleece to the backing and then just stitched in the ditch. And I thought this looked quite nice. I mean, I'm quite happy with this one. And I used a couple different fabrics. I kind of like my plaid. So this is my second attempt, and this is the fusing method. So I'm going to show you how I did this. But I did have a little trouble with this one, and I don't know if you can see it. Can you see that little bit of white right there? I had a little problem with the way she had me do the applique, so I'm going to show you a little trick I learned with my third one with the applique. But I thought this was I was happy with this, and this did not really wrinkle. So I was happy with this one. But I did put the fusible fleece on the back. So we'll talk about that next week when we go to put these together. I also learned, this was really fun, I learned how to make a sleeve. I'd never done a sleeve on anything before, and I thought this was so cool. I made this sleeve to put on the back and this little hanger. So I've got these on the website too. There's these little hangers. These are the ones that go on the wall, and then there's also some stand ones, and I'll show you those in a little bit when I turn the camera around. But then I made a third one, and this one I did with a different stabilizer, and this one I actually quilted. And I do like, I think this is my favorite one. I actually do really like the quilting. So what I did is I quilted the center section in the embroidery machine because there was enough fabric here that I could hoop it and then quilt with my design center and quilt it like I've done other things. So we'll show you this in the quilting next week. But then what I did with the top, I don't know if you can see it well enough on the camera, but can you see, I just used a little serpentine stitch and you made rows of serpentines, and I thought it looked kind of cute with that, and then I did that on the bottom too. So this one's quilted, but I did use a different stabilizer, and then of course it's also quilted through the backing. See, I like that it's quilted all the way through the back. So I'm going to show you both ways of doing these. The quilted one is also a little bit softer. In order to keep it from wrinkling, I had to leave the stabilizer in the fused version, so it's a little bit stiffer. But for a wall hanging, that's fine. But I'm going to show you how I did both of these. Okay? So is there any questions about these? So I'm going to show you two methods. One with one for the fused version, and one which is what the instructions say, and one for my quilted version. Is there any questions about that? Does everybody understand? So, yeah, I can't wait to make. I really enjoyed doing this, and it's fun. It's actually a very simple project. So I'm going to go through a bunch of little things tonight. I'm not going to sew out the whole project because it does take about an hour. So I'm going to show you first how I hooped. The one thing, let's talk a little bit about some of the cutting and stuff and what you need. Whoops, I'm going to turn the camera around here. So let's talk a little bit about the cutting and stuff here. So you need like a background fabric, and that's what I chose, this kind of winter white color. It has a little speckle to it. And you want to cut a piece of shape flex, that shape flex to put on the back. So this is just a cotton fabric with the shape flex on the back. Okay, so that's the first things you need. And then you need, all the cutting instructions are actually on like the first page of the instructions here. And I have some highlights and stuff. So you need binding and the two pieces that go on the front, down here. You need this basic piece. You need this piece that goes up here and this piece that goes down here at the bottom. They tell you all the amounts here. And the sizes. You need some binding to go around the outside edge. Now, one of mine, I made the binding the same, and this one I made it contrasting binding. So this one I had the dark brown binding on. So I like them both. I also use different trims. So like this one, I used a purchase trim. This one, I actually made my own trim. So I'll talk about that next time when we go to put it together. But I made my own trim with my bias binder with this one. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then we're going to make these 3D leaves. So these little leaves are made 3D, and we'll talk about that tonight in the embroidery part. Okay. And then you also need an applique piece for your pumpkin. So I used this orange. I had just mine's just plain. I think she used a print, but I couldn't find a nice orange I liked with a print on it, so I just used this plain one. I also put shape flex on the back of this because there's quite a few stitches through this applique section. So, so you do need to put some shape flex on the back of this piece as well. And then you need 2 pieces of this green. And this is for the leaves, and what you do, I'm trying to find, oh, here it is. So what you do is you cut heat and bond. You want heat and bond light because we're going to be sewing through this. You cut a piece that's the same size as your fabric, iron it on to the back of one piece, and then you're going to pull the paper off of the backing, and then you're going to put the other piece of the fabric on the other side and iron them together. So now we have a 2-sided piece of fabric, and she uses heat and bond light to do that, and it worked very well. It stays sealed well together. And when we make these leaves, then we're going to do this on water soluble, and then see they're 2-sided. So you have and you're going to put matching thread in the bobbin then. I think I might have forgotten to wind a bobbin, so I may have to wind a bobbin quick here. So we're going to do the matching thread in the bobbin then, okay? And I used 2 different colors of leaves on these. But anyway, so that's what you need to cut. And then you'll also need a backing piece for the backing. You need a backing piece, and it's a little bit larger than the front. And then you need a piece of the fusible fleece. Normally when I quilt, I make my backing considerably larger, but I decided that I was just going to quilt the center section on the machine, and then I was going to do the rest of it just sewn. So I was able to get by just using the same size as she called for, and then still quilt the front. Okay? You just spray with starch like she has in her instructions too. I often do, Lynn, when I iron my fabric first, I use my regular starch and spray it while I'm ironing it to get all the wrinkles out, and then I put the fusible fleece or the shape flex on the back. So yes, using a little starch on the fabric to get all the wrinkles out is really the best thing. I had to wash this because I had a piece of this that had a dirty spot down the side, so I had to wash it, so it was very wrinkly. So I did go ahead and use some starch on this and then use the shape flex on the back. Okay? All right, so that's your basic cutting instructions are on page 1. Let's go to page 2 here and see if there was anything different. Okay, so now the thing about this design is she does this 2 ways, depending on, yes, Denise, you could use regular batting instead of the fusible fleece. I did use regular batting when I did the quilting. I used fusible fleece when I did the fused version because I felt the fleece would not move around inside so much with it being fused. So I used regular fleece when I did my quilted version. I just used regular batting, I should say. And then I used the fusible fleece on the fused version. So you could use either one. And we'll talk about that next time too. Okay. So if you look down here at the designs, the first one is the design for the leaves, the 4 leaves. And then depending on the hoop size that you have, she has 2 versions. She has a version that you can make in 2 hoopings with a 6x10 hoop. So if you only have a 6x10 hoop, you're going to have to choose this multi-hooping function, which is not difficult. And it does go through the first instructions starting on page 2, talk about the multi-hooped version of this and how to do this. Okay, so you have marking lines and it tells you what to do for those. Now I just used most of you have an 8x12 hoop. So what I did is I chose the instructions starting on page 4 on page 4 here, and I used the last design. Oh, the cute plaid fabric. Everybody loves my fabric, you know? Everybody's going to laugh at me. This I got on clearance last fall at Walmart in Anamosa. They had just 1 yard left, and so that's why I didn't make them all out of that same, because I didn't know if I'd have enough. I had enough to make 2, though. And this brown fabric came from Walmart, and I think the background fabric did too. So I actually got all of this from Walmart. I love that plaid. Isn't that cute? And they didn't have any of it this year. I never saw any of it this year. They did have a plaid, but it wasn't the same one. And I think Judy brought me this this is a different color for the leaves. I did a brighter color because the green was not as olivey in this one. So Judy had a nice little fat quarter for the leaves on this one. Okay, so yes, I got that at Walmart. Okay, so what I did then is I'm going to use, instead of the first 2, if you have a small hoop, you're going to have to use the first set of instructions for the multi-hooping, and that's what these are going to be. And then I'm going to use the last design, which is the design that fits in the 8x12. So I would say the majority of you that are on here tonight have at least an 8x12 hoop and can do this all in one hooping, which seems to work very well. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose my last design, and I'm going to set that. And it fits in the 8x12 very easily. And then this is where I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I hoop this. So the one that I have started here, if you give me a second, I used 2 different kinds of stabilizer, and I didn't really use what she said to use. So I have a hard time when I have to adhere things. I like to use the Perfect Stick, or the it's called Peel and Stick in the Dime, and the Floriani's the Perfect Stick. This is the tacky stabilizer, and this is going to be the one that I am not, this is going to be the fused one. So for the fused version, I use Perfect Stick. So here's I hooped my stabilizer only with the, like the paper, shiny paper up, and then I scored, you pull this back a little bit so you can see, I scored with my scissors the paper off, and then I pulled it off, and then I adhered my fabric onto this. I will show you how I do that in the next step, because there's actually a placement line to help you place this roughly in the center. Okay, so for the fused version of this, I used Perfect Stick, because I'm going to leave the stabilizer in the design. I've actually sewn this out 4 times. The first time I pulled the stabilizer out because she told me to pull the stabilizer out, and it was so wrinkly, because I kind of knew that too, and I didn't want it. That's why the second time I made it, I left the stabilizer in, and I'm going to fuse to the backing, not to this, because it's got stabilizer in it. So that really kept it nice and smooth, and it's not wrinkly. Okay, so I have pre-sewn some of this so that you could see me do the applique part, but I'll show you how I do the hooping with this other hoop here. And so I hooped it differently. This is the one that I'm going to make into the quilted version. And I want that one to have no stabilizer on the back, because I'm going to quilt it, and even though it's going to look wrinkly when I take the stabilizer out, I'm going to quilt it, and it doesn't look wrinkly once it's quilted. So this one, that's why it's also a little softer. So this one does not have, I tore the stabilizer out of this one. So I used for this one a regular tearaway in the hoop. So the only thing that's in this hoop is just a regular piece of tearaway, just one piece. And then this is my fabric with the shape flex on the back. Okay. So, and then just to make it clear, if you're making the fused version with the fusible fleece, I used Perfect Stick to put in the hoop with the tacky surface, and then this is stuck down, and I am going to leave the stabilizer in my piece. I'm not going to remove it. Okay? With the quilted version, and this is how I do a lot of the, the Kimberbell quilts and everything too. I just hoop a piece of plain old tearaway stabilizer, okay? Then the first step in the instructions is to sew out a placement line on your hoop. So let's do that, and then I'll show you how I'm gonna hoop this. You hoop them the same way, but I'm just using a different material, okay? So this one's gonna be the one I'm going to quilt. So I'm gonna have to hit embroidery over here, and the first thing is going to be this placement line. And it doesn't really matter what color it is, but since, like this one, since I left the stabilizer in, I do not want it to show through my fabric. So I did actually use a matching white thread. You can still see it. It's plenty visible enough. Because I knew I was going to leave that. Now this one, I could use black or something else because I'm going to pull the stabilizer out. But I don't want any of that thread to show through. So I am just going to go ahead and use the white. So the first thing is just a placement line. So let's just go ahead and sew out this placement line. And then I'll show you how I hoop this. Now, I didn't quite hoop it the way she said. Which hoop? It's the 8x12, Lisa. So you can see, I don't know if you can see it very well. You can see it on the screen pretty well. Here's my placement line. So here's the center line up here, and then here's the middle, okay? So the way she told you to do this was to turn this over and draw with like those friction pens or whatever. And I've had a hard time with those coming out, or they come back again unexpectedly. So I didn't really want to do that. So what I did with mine, and this has worked really well for me, is I folded this in half. I folded my fabric in half and just placed a little finger press in the center here, just enough that I can see it. And then I turned it the other way and I finger pressed it in the center again. And that worked well for me to get this in the hoop. So I actually am hooping these the same way, but this one I am not using, so I don't know if you can see that. Can you see my little lines there? Okay, so since this one I want to take the paper out, this is not the tacky paper. I used the perfect stick or the peel and stick in the one that I'm going to fuse. This one I'm going to pull out and quilt, so I wanted just plain old tearaway. And what I do with this one then, and this is how I do most of the like Kimberbell designs, I take my fabric glue stick, okay, and I'm going to take my glue stick. Hopefully I can do this on the camera so you can see it well enough. I didn't get the table out tonight. So I'm going to take my fabric glue stick and I'm going to paint some glue stick on here. I might have to put a little more on. I'm going to fold this in half where my press line was, and I did this with the other one too. I'm going to lay that center line. Here's that line right here. I'm going to lay this line, the center line on there, and I'm going to lay the middle on the line that's running along here. And this is how you do the other one too. It's just that it's tacky. And this one's not tacky. I had to make it tacky. All right, so I'm going to lay it there, and then I'm going to press this down. It looks pretty straight. Okay, I'm going to press this down. Now, I didn't get very much over here, over on this side, so I'm just going to lift this up and I'm going to paint a little more glue stick on here so it holds it down well. We'll just put some more glue stick on here, and we'll do both sides. I think I need to, there we go, turn it up a little bit. Put some more glue stick on there and stick this down. And this is how I do most of my Kimberbell quilts too. I often do actually hoop those. I still stick them down. But this seems to work for me, and it doesn't really wrinkle. So now I've got, my center pieces here, so I didn't really get any glue stick on this side. So we need to get the glue stick on this side. Normally I do this like over on my cutting table. So I'm not trying to do this in the machine normally. But it was easier than having to set up a whole bunch of tables for tonight. So I usually do this on my cutting table. All right, so we got the glue stick on there, and I'm going to flip this one over. So I didn't mark the lines. She does have you marking lines, and you can mark the lines if you'd like. I just I just have trouble with like some of the marks showing, like they'll show through sometimes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this quickly over to my ironing board, and I am going to just touch this with the iron, a dry iron, not steam, just to make sure that those little marks that I pressed in don't show. Okay, so I'm just going to take this out of the machine for a minute and take this over to my ironing table. And when you hit it with the iron a little bit, it takes that, you don't notice that mark in the center then with that you made to find your center location. And like I said, sometimes I have trouble with those marks. They don't come off for me. The friction pens have worked very well for me, so I've never used them. So now I've got my fabric in here. So I did the same thing with both of these. But this one, I didn't have to put the glue stick on because it's already tacky, see? So this one, I just had to do my outline, and then I put it in, I just folded it in half both ways, put it on the mark, and then laid it down and stuck it to my stabilizer. Okay, so those are the two stabilizers I use. This one for the fused version, the regular one for the quilted version, because I want to tear all of this paper out. This one I'm going to leave in my design to make it a little bit stiffer and so it won't get wrinkly on me. Okay? So is there any questions about the stabilizer? Does that make sense to everybody? I think it's pretty straightforward. So if you have questions, you can message me, and then I'll hopefully make it more clear by just writing it down for you. But I did, so this is going to be my quilted version. I'll do this one later. We're going to go back to this other one. This is the one I'm going to do as the fused version. This one's going to be the one with the leaves on it this time. So I'm going to reverse them. This is the fabric with the leaves. And step number 2 then, I've already done a couple of the steps here so we can move through this a little more quickly because it does take a while to sew this out. It takes about an hour. So the first thing that stitches then are your 2 satin stitch borders. And then the next thing that stitches is with the Grateful Heart We. And then there's an applique placement line that sews. Okay, so that's step number 3. Step number 4, and also just so you know, the color chart is actually on the page number. It's like on page number 5 or 6. No, it's on 8. So here's the color chart right here and what you're doing. So the color number 1 was the placement lines. Color 2 is the lower the lower and upper satin stitch border. Color number 3 is going to be the wording. And this first placement line for my applique for my pumpkin. And that's the only applique that's in here is the pumpkin. The rest of it's just sewn. And then I'm going to place my pumpkin fabric. And my pumpkin fabric, I just need to find my colors here just a second. Make sure I get the right color in here. Yeah, so 186. I have to get my color. So here's my placement line for my pumpkin. Yes, Denise, you could. You could also do that if you wanted to. You could quilt it beforehand. The only disadvantage to that would be you're going to have batting in your seams then. But yeah, you could do it that way if you want to. But then you have to have some batting in your, you got to add some battings then for the end. So I just as soon do it afterwards so that I can put one piece of batting on instead of having to like put extra batting in. Okay. What thread colors did I use? I used Floriani colors. And this is the 8x12 Mitzi, but she also has a 6x10 version. You just have to do 2 hoopings. Okay, and she shows you how to do it. The first part of the instructions is for a 6x10 hoop, and the second for the 8x12. So you'll be able to do it in your machine. I use Floriani, Diane. I used Floriani colors. I think what I did is I kind of went with the colors that were in my fabrics. So I looked at my fabrics and then what she did, you know, here, and kind of went with what looked good with my fabrics is how I did it. So, okay. So the next piece we're going to talk about is the applique. And this is one of the things that I had to, this is one thing that I had to change a little bit. So I've got my applique placement line. I'm going to lay my applique material on top of that. I'm going to switch to the color that you use for the quilting. There's going to be like some shading in here. And what she tells you to do is do the shading, and she tells you to trim in between here. And I found that I didn't trim until later, because I found that I had a little bit of pulling from my satin stitches. So I'm going to use this piece here. I got to fast forward my design a little bit here on my machine. Give me a second here to thread the machine. I had a lot of fun making this. This was really fun. I'm anxious to try some of the other ones. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to fast forward. Since I've already pre-sewn a few things, I need to hit my plus minus needle down here. And then I need to go up to number, whoops, let's see, we need to go down to number, I think it's 4. Yeah, 3 was the applique, and then this is the placement line. So what she tells you in the instructions on number 4 is to actually trim after you sew out your tack down line. And I am not going to do that because it pulled away for me. So I left the fabric on until after I did the shading. So that's what we're going to do next. This is the tacking stitch, which is number 4 on your machine. Yeah, and if you want me to put the list of colors on, I'll put them on after we get done. So if you want to know what colors I used. But you do have to go a little bit by the colors of your fabric. So I also use, like, the last color is the Give Thanks. And she did hers in just a gold, but I did mine in a gold metallic. And I want to do that in gold metallic. Okay? So I've got this. Now in the instructions it says to trim, but I would recommend not trimming yet. The next step on my machine right here is the shading, and that's where I got the pulling. There is a piece, remember, of shape flex on the back of my fabric also. So that helped a lot, but it still wanted to pull right down here in this little bottom part. So I'm going to leave all the fabric on until after I've stitched all the shading. So we'll stitch the shading, and then while that's stitching, I'm going to talk to you about a couple of other things that you can get to go with this. I talked a little bit about these little hangers, and the hangers, these are Ackfeld hangers. Let me take it off so you can see a little better. They just have a little bar on them and a topper, and the ones that I was able to get at the store, these are on back order right now, this cool little curlicue one. I've got some that have really cute little hearts on them, and those should be in probably on Monday or Tuesday, so I'll have some more of these. These are 12 inches wide, so then you can hang it on the wall if you like a wall hanging instead. And I think they're around $5.99, $5.50. They're not really expensive, these little hangers. So I got these up on the website. And if you look under Ackfeld or hangers, they'll come up. And then what she's put it on in the instructions here, I don't know if it shows here, but there was another page I had that had the picture of it. She uses these hangers, and, you know, like the table hangers like we've used for some of the other things that have the scrolls on the top. And they look really nice on here, so let me put one of these back on. It's got like a split in here. While that's going, we'll do this, and you can just put there's a little sleeve on the back, and we're just going to slide it onto one side, and then we can slide it onto the other side over here. Get it in there. And I just thought this was really cute too. So this one is 12 inches by 14. So if you want to have the stand like this, I don't know if I set it over here, maybe you can see it. Set it over here on my machine, maybe you can see it better. And I'll put the camera. But I do really like the stand. And I got one for the stand. There we go. One for the stand with the stand, and one I've got one hanging on the little wall hanger. So they're both really cute. So this is the little wall hanger again. So I've got those both up on the website if you want it. I've also got the CD. So if you didn't purchase the CD and would like to make this, the CD's up there. And then I think all of the other ones that she has done of this size are up there too. There was all the different seasons and everything, so it's kind of neat. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is I've been playing with some new metallic thread, and I wanted to show you what I did yesterday. I have always wanted to, I haven't soaked it out yet, but I've always wanted to do snowflakes with metallic thread, but I've always been extremely hesitant to put metallic thread in the bobbin. And I think I might have found some thread that we can get for the store that I can put metallic thread in the bobbin. This is the Dime King Star thread, and this is what it looks like. And I'm going to use this. I haven't done any sewing with regular fabric, so I'm going to do my give thanks for this event for this project. I'm going to use my gold. So I'm hoping to be able to get this in stock. I just need to test it a little bit more because I've only done a couple of things with it. But I was super impressed that I could put this in the bobbin. And my machine, like, it only broke like one thread, and I did 3 of these heavy dance snowflakes. So I thought that was pretty awesome. They have quite a few colors. So anyway, I'm in the testing phase. Right. And the thing that's cool, like, I watched a thing, Denise said she sewed with the dime, she bought a spool of it, and what I thought was cool, what they showed on the little thing that they did on Thursday, was they talked about the thread and how it, I don't know if you can see it here on the screen, but this thread is very soft and it's not kinky. It doesn't kink. And it just pools just like regular thread, and so it really runs through the machine quite well. Like I said, I think it broke one time in 3 snowflakes, and I had it in the bobbin. I'd never put metallic thread in the bobbin before, ever. So I'm hoping that this works out really well, and we'll have some of this in the store. It's so cool. And they have about 15 or 16 colors. So, okay, so we're going to use the gold. I'll use the gold in my this is the gold that I'm going to use in my project. So. Okay, so we have now the shading in the pumpkin, and where I had the problem, and I don't know if you can see it, where I had the problem with it pulling a little bit was like right down on this little corner, and it didn't. And after, you know, if you leave this on and then trim it now before you do the satin stitch, it's fine. So that's what I did. So that's my little trick for the pumpkin. So let's go ahead and trim this. And I probably won't sew too much more on this one. I think you'll understand the rest of it's just stitched but I wanted to show you this applique pumpkin because it didn't work very well to trim it until after the shading was done. And there's a very good line, so even with the shading in there, you can still see very easily where to trim. So, and there's a really nice Janine has these really nice outlines she always does, and she kind of puts a triple stitch through the center and stuff. So I've always liked her. I like her satin stitches and stuff. They're wide. But this worked better for me, and I didn't get that gap then in my satin stitch. So I'll go ahead and get this trimmed so you can see how I trimmed it. Okay. The next step is going to be the satin stitch around the outside, and it does take a little bit, and then she does the stem of the pumpkin and the stem and the outlining of the pumpkin, and then she does, I believe, the curlicues, the vines, And then she does the give thanks. Yes, we do. Yes, Jackie, these are up on the website also. These are the Ginger double curved embroidery scissors. So yes, those are up on the website as well and in the store. These are wonderful scissors. I've used these for years. And they have a very, very sharp point on them. Okay, so let's go through that just quickly so you know what comes up at the end here, because I want to show you how to do the leaves next. Okay. So on here, the next step is this outline right here on the pumpkin. Okay, and I did use two different colors. I used a color that was more the color of my fabric for the shading, and then I used a little bit brighter color for the pumpkin. And then the next step, oops, I have to go down. The next step is going to be this lighter brown for the fill of the stem. And then the outline, so I used a darker brown there. And again, I'll put my colors up that I used. They're Floriani colors. And then she does the, whoops, I went the wrong direction. There we go. Then she does the stems. So these stems here, I made these stems a different color than my Satin Stitch line. Okay? These are darker, and I matched those to my leaf color. So those are a little darker color. And then my other one had a lighter color in it, so I used a brighter green for those. Like those have this brighter green, because that fabric had brighter greens in it. Okay, so I have two different greens that I used. And then the final step is the give thanks, and this is done in metallic. Now these I didn't have the new King Star yet. This is the Floriani, and it did very well. It didn't break really. I might have broken one time, but with the Floriani thread, if that's what you're using, just a reminder, when you use the metallic, turn it upside down like this on the spool. I know it sounds silly, but turn it upside down like this, and it sews much better than right side up. So always turn it upside down, and it comes off the spool and doesn't kink as bad. So that's my trick with the Floriani metallic, because I love metallic thread. You don't have to use metallic. I just love metallic. And then this metallic, I'm anxious to try it, so I'll stitch one out tonight, and I'll take a picture of it. But this metallic is really pretty, and I can just set it up on the spool, and it just goes great. I haven't had any problems with it so far. I've only used it on a couple 3 projects so far, but I'm doing the testing for Tim so he can decide on it. So, okay. So that is the background piece. Okay, so most of it is sewn, as you can see. So remember, don't trim your pumpkin until after you put the shading in, even though the instructions tell you to trim it in between. Leave it on and then trim it after the shading, because it seems to sew out better for you. And then just finish the stitching, and then you're done. The section, I need to read where that little section is. It tells you how to trim it once you are done. And I think it tells you in the instructions. Yeah, it explains to you in this first part on the page 5 how to trim and how far to trim away. So you have to trim a little bit of your background away. Okay. So if you're doing the fused version with that perfect stick in it, like this is, I am not going to take out the stabilizer. I left the stabilizer in, and I just trimmed it and left all the stabilizer in. And this one, once I do this one with the regular, whoops, something on the floor now. This one I'm going to pull my stabilizer out, and then when I quilt it, it's going to take all those puckers away. How many bobbins for Snowflake did it take? Actually, Lynn, I think it only took one. I think it only took one. Those are pretty. Those have quite a few stitches in them too. Those are the newer. It's the newer embroidery library ones. They had like 2 sets of snowflakes, and this is the newer ones. But they did take I think only 1 bobbin. And I did. I think I used like 2 bobbins for 3 snowflakes when I did them, because I know I had to wind it once anyway. Okay, So any questions about the background? We'll talk more about the trimming and stuff, so if you don't want to trim until next week, that's fine. Otherwise, the trimming instructions for your background, because you do have to trim it, you have to trim it a certain size so that it fits. You can also wait till next week, or you can read this first part of the instructions. I will go through all the assembly and stuff, and then the quilting next week for the quilted one. Okay. So is there any questions about this background piece? So this is the embroidery, the main embroidery part, but then you also need to make your leaves, and the leaves are kind of cool the way you do them. So let's get the 2 big hoops and I'll finish that out of the way. The leaves fit in a 4x4 hoop, and for this one we're going to be using the water-soluble stabilizer. In other words, it's going to be either the Floriani Wet and Gone, which is the stuff you make lace on, and the Floriani Wet and Gone, you're going to use 2 pieces, or you're going to use the dime is called Sew and Wash, and you're going to use 2 pieces. I think this is the Sew and Wash, and you're going to use 2 layers. Okay, we'll go ahead and get. And by the way, for the entire project, with this part of the project anyway, I am just using regular bobbin thread in the bobbin because you're not going to see the backing at all. And then when I go to do the leaves here in a second, we're going to wind a bobbin. I don't think I have a bobbin wound. I'll have to look in my box a second here. I forgot to wind a bobbin. See if I have a bobbin in here. No, I must have used it all. We'll just wind one. So the bobbins, or the leaves, this is that piece of fabric that I had to cut the 2 pieces of fabric, and then you cut the piece of heat and bond light, and you're going to fuse it to the first piece on the back, and then you're going to pull the paper off, and then you're going to fuse the other piece to the other side, so it's double-sided. Okay? So you can make it 3-dimensional. Got to find the bobbin here. We'll wind a bobbin with our matching thread for the leaves. Got to find the color. I think I used the darker color on the leaves. That was the color that matched this. So it's this darker color. I remember I had a hard time getting this because my PR was not super happy with this spool of thread. It was very unhappy with it. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and wind this bobbin. Yeah, so this spool of thread, I mean, there's 1,000 meters on these King Star spools, and there was, this is a full spool, and I wound bobbins and sewed with it, so there's a lot left on that silver. I've always wanted to make metallic snowflakes, and I've always been afraid to put it in the bobbin. Okay, we'll get a little thread here. So this you want to be matching, so that this is the one we're doing, like these leaves. So we want this to be matching so that it's matching on the back. Okay. And I don't know if you know that, but on the luminaires, did you notice that my bobbin stopped really fast, and I've only got about a quarter of a bobbin? The luminaire, they added a really cool thing, this little slider thing, and if you have it all the way up, it winds the bobbin full, and if you put it down a notch, it winds it like half full, and if you put it all the way down, it winds it like a quarter full. Because, we always want to do just a little bit, and we turn our head, and then it winds a whole bobbin. So this, I don't have to worry about it. I leave it on a quarter, and see, it only did about a quarter of a bobbin. All right, so we're going to put that in the bobbin. I just started with it in the bobbin. I think she might have started with regular bobbin thread, but I just put the matching thread in the bobbin because all there is just a placement line. Oh, just a second here. I made it mad. I didn't get the design out of here fast enough. Okay, so we're going to go get that little design for the leaves. Go get that for the leaves. Where is it here? Oops, Grateful Heart. Here it is. And designs. And here's the leaves. And the leaves are the same, but they're like mirrored. And those go in a 4x4 hoop. Actually, no, you know what? They have to go in a 5x7, guys. Yeah, they have to go into 5x7. I'm sorry, so I'm gonna have to grab another hoop here. Just a minute. I thought they were in the 4x4, but they're in the 5x7. I have to go under my cabinet. Just a second. Let me hoop this other hoop. I was going to do this, and I think I'm going to have to get a different piece of fabric. Just a second. I was going to do that on the other side of my, I wanted to do that on the other side of my snowflake, so I didn't waste that, but I'll just make another snowflake. I'll have to get some more wet and gone here. Only on live TV, right? I usually have everything ready. I could have sworn it was in the 4x4. It almost fits. It's about a ½ an inch too big. All right, let me get this hooped. It's easier for me to hoop on my cutting table over here, so than on the machine. All right, so when you hoop this, remember we want it to be pretty tight. Okay, got 2 layers in here. Made my piece a little short, but it'll be fine. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, there we go. So it is in the 5x7. All right, so we got our hoop, and I'm going to hit embroidery here. And the first thing is just going to be, and I think it says, let's see where it shows you how to do the leaves. Where is the page here? For the leaves. It was like separated from the rest of it. It was kind of weird. It must be on page, yeah, on page 6. It shows how to do your 3D leaves. And so you hoop the 2 layers of the water soluble. And the first step is just your placement line. So I've got my embroidery thread, my matching embroidery thread on the bobbin. I'm going to thread my machine now. Thought I had everything out. You know, I always think you're completely prepared, and something always happens. Okay. Make sure that this is good and snug in here. Okay. Then we're going to do our placement line for the leaves. Now this one, as I remember, let me look at my little instructions here. This one I had to go ahead and trim them after the placement, after the tacked on line, because they did the satin stitching first, as I remember. And I think on mine, I did 1 color for the whole leaf. I don't know if you can see mine or not. Well, I'll hold it up here so you can see it. I did 1 color for the decoration in the center, you know, the stems in the center, and for the outline. But you can do 2 colors there because she stops the machine. So it's doing our placement lines. Now this stuff's a little bit hard to trim because it's kind of stiff with the 2 layers of fabric in there. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This is a really fun project. I'm anxious to try some of the other ones. The autumn one is really pretty. And then there's a winter one, a spring, and a summer. And then there's 3 Christmas ones that are cute. Okay, so there's our placement lines. Okay. And then we're going to lay our fabric in. Make sure it covers it. And if you want to tape it down, you could do that. I usually just kind of hold it. Once I get a few stitches in it, it'll be fine. Then it's going to do the tack down. Now this was a little bit tricky to trim because it's kind of, I used very matchy thread too, which didn't help any. So I had to get my glasses out for this. Do the tacking down line. I got thread and stuff all over my all over my cabinet. What does CTC mean? Oh, I don't know. Is it in the design? Is it in the instructions somewhere? Cut close to stitches, I think is what she means. Stitch color 3, the leaf satin perimeters, CTC, and stitch color 4. I have no idea. CTC. Anybody know what that means? Color number 4 is going to be the change thread color. I bet that's what it means. Change thread color is what it means. I did not change mine. Yeah, Janine has different little pseudonyms than I'm used to reading, so I had to read the instructions several times. Okay, so then the next step is going to be trimming. So we have to trim away our fabric. This is a little tricky because they are kind of matchy. So I'll just do one. And the last 2 steps I don't think you're going to have any trouble with. All you do is put it back in. Just make sure that you don't pop it out of the hoop. But you have to kind of hold, I don't know if you can see me, I'm kind of holding this up. And it helps to get into those little crevices. There's a lot of little crevices in these leaves. So I had a little hard time, and these scissors really do a good job because they're very pointy at the end. But take your time because it's a little thick and it's a little harder to trim because of the double layer of fabric. Okay. So there's the first one. And then I'll do the same thing with all 4. Okay. The next step then is to trim all of them, and then the next step is the satin stitching that goes around the outside edge. And then if you want to change the thread color, that's what since we decided that's what CTC means, change thread color. And then it does the little stems, down through the middle here. And if you want a different color, I think I just used the same color on mine. So then, after these are all sewn out, since this is water soluble, what I did is I trimmed them apart and I took them to the sink with warm water and then just dipped them and ran a little water over them to dissolve the stabilizer. And then I always use a tea towel and I just dab it with a tea towel. And then I have those, remember those from one of the last classes I showed you my little styrofoam board that I pin it to. And that's what I did, is I pinned these down so that they wouldn't be really super wrinkly. And then when I put them onto the wall hanging, they were nice and flat. And then after I glued them on, I just kind of took them and shaped them a little bit so that I could bring them up and make them more 3D. Okay, so I like them to be nice and straight and not wrinkly looking to start with, and then I can pull them up and shape them a little bit more. Okay, but don't soak them too long because you want them to have some stiffness in them. But you do need to get the stabilizer off so it doesn't leave a residue. Okay, and that's why I use the tea towels, because if I dab it in a tea towel, it takes some of that residue off of the fabric and you don't get that shiny stuff on there. Okay, so that is the leaves. So this is a really easy embroidery project, but I wanted to show you a couple of my little hints. The hint about leaving, in the pumpkin, don't trim until after your shading is in, then trim, and then it'll do the outlining, and then finish up your entire design. I also wanted to talk to you about the different stabilizers I used, depending on what I did. No, I did not soak them for a half an hour. Yes, I don't know how any of them ever turned out with any stiffness at all. I dampen them, and I actually kind of throw them in warm water. I fill my sink and kind of throw them in warm water, just let them soak in there just a little bit, and then I take them up and I run them under running water to get the residue off. Take my tea towel and dab as much of the real moisture out, and then I take them and put them on my little styrofoam board and pin them down and let them dry. And they dry in about a half an hour, 45 minutes they'll dry. Sometimes I just leave them until the next day before I mess with them, and then I actually put them on with a glue gun. So we'll talk about that next time in the assembly. But it's really easy to do these, and they're so cool because they have both sides with fabric then. Okay, so because then they turn out with the same fabric on both sides. I just thought that was so cool the way she did them. So we've done a couple of projects that have had some of her 3D things on them, and I just thought the leaves were pretty. When I saw this, I just really liked it. It was her brand new design that came out, and I saw it right away, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. So I thought we needed to try something new, and I was so excited to learn to make the little what do they call those? They make the little wrap thing in the back, you know, the little sleeve in the back, because then I know how to do that now. I've never done a sleeve before, so I thought it was cool. That was something new. Okay, so that is the embroidery section of Grateful Heart. Are there any questions? I didn't finish all the embroidery because it does take a while, so I'm going to finish my embroidery tonight, and then I'll take a picture of my piece that I finished. Remember, if you're doing the fused version, don't take your perfect stick, your tacky stabilizer, out of the design. Leave it in, and then we'll trim it down and leave all the stabilizer in it. And then if you're going to do a quilted one, take your stabilizer out. That's the one that I glued down on just the regular tearaway. So we'll talk more about that next week when we get ready to do. Where did you get your braid trim? I got that braid trim at Walmart. It's a real common braid trim. I don't think you'll have any trouble finding it. I think I got this at Walmart though. They had a whole bunch of trims, and I bought a couple of different gold ones. I thought that one was pretty. There was a brown one I got too, but it didn't really match my fabric. My fabric was a little bit more olivey, and the brown looked funny with it, so I went with the gold. I think the gold, and then I did, I think my stitching, a lot of my stitching I did with, I think my quilting's done in kind of a creamy color, and then I did the stitching on the binding maybe with monofilament. So we'll do some quilting stuff next time. Okay, and then I wanted to show you what I got done this weekend. I was really excited. I've been working on this week. So here is the top for Ginger's Kitchen. This will be in November. This is the top. I haven't got it quilted yet, so there are, I think there was only like 13 blocks, so it really went together very quickly. You do have to do some piece blocks. Can you see the piece ones in the little pinwheels? And then you put the sides on, and these little organza, little ruffles. Now I did notice that one of my ends, I'm going to have to redo it. I noticed that the ends were not directional, but somehow I ended up getting 3 words all in the same one, and they're all upside down. So I might as well just turn it over so they're right side up, but I am going to fix that afterwards. So that is Ginger's Kitchen. Isn't it cute? Now the little guy up here in the corner seam, he is supposed to be upside down. And then the bigger one here, I haven't got it on here yet, but she's going to have a little dress out of that organza, out of the red organza. This is the little girl, and she has a little dress on. Haven't got her done yet. And then like the little gingerbread houses have little cookies or like buttons on them. And there's quite a few little embellishments on this one. So, but this one's up on the website too, and then the embellishment kit's up there. And we're going to start this one. Oh, and then we get to make yo-yos. I'm not very good at yo-yos, guys, so you may have to help me. But there's 3 yo-yos on this too. I'm going to order a yo-yo maker. It'll be easier. And then there's like some rickrack and different things on here too. So, but I wanted to show you this. I got this finished up this week. Got all the blocks made. It went together very quickly. It was very fun. And I just have to quilt it now. So I'll do the quilting this week and then make the pillow up so you can see it. So hopefully I'll have it done before next weekend. So that'll be our November class. Okay. Are there any other questions? So we'll start next week. We'll do the quilting and the finishing up. Oh, you worked on your We Wish You a Merry Christmas. You almost got it quilted, Denise. That's wonderful. Yeah, that one was really fun. I really like that quilt a lot. It's a nice size. So I'm anxious to try another one. I thought maybe we do another one next year. Sometime next year we'll do another quilt. So they have a couple of new ones. I did it around afterwards, Diane, because I like my stippling to be through all the layers. So no, I did this. So what I did, so I'll show you next week, but I'm going to stipple this one through. See, it's stippled through all the layers. I don't know if you can see the stippling on the back, but I did it through all the layers. I prefer it that way because I think it hangs better too when it's all connected together. And then I just did the quilting in the top. You can see the little serpentines. I just did that with a sewing machine. I thought it looked really cute. It was just something different. So I just did that with a sewing machine. It just took me a couple minutes to do that. So I did it after the fact. I put it together and then I stippled this. There was enough that I could hoop, that I could do the centerpiece, but there wasn't really enough to hoop to do the backing without making a hole, or the edges, without making a great big huge backing, and I didn't have enough fabric, so I didn't want to have a huge backing in order to hoop to it. So I just did that with the sewing machine. It worked out really well. And then you just trim it down so it fits. So. Okay, so we're going to do this. So I'm going to finish up mine tonight so you can see. I'm going to reverse them. So like this one's going to be my fused one. The one with this fabric is going to be my fused one for next week. And then the one with the plaid is going to be my quilted one. So I have one of each. So I really like the plaid. Do you guys like the plaid too? I originally was just going to do the plaid, but I wasn't sure. You know, some plaids just aren't straight. When you go to cut them, they're printed really crooked, and I was afraid it would look really crooked, but it was actually pretty straight, so it looked good, I thought. So I'm going to make one of each again, so I'll have 4 of these. Okay? So are there any other questions? Everybody feel like they can get the first part of their project ready for next week, and we'll do the finishing up? And I will post my thread colors. Is there anything else that you needed me to post? You need me to post the stabilizers, or did everybody get that? What am I going to do with all of these? Well, I'm going to give one to my dad, and I'm going to keep one of each probably here. Did you quilt with Design Center in the stamp? Yes, I did, Marianne. That's how we'll do that next week. I'll show you how I did it to do the quilting. And I'll show you how I fuse the other piece together. It'll be a little longer class next week because I'm going to show you both the quilting and the fusing. So it'll take a little longer. I won't be able to completely finish it, but I think you'll get the gist of it. Oh, yours is stitching out right now. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and finish mine when I get done here with class. I'll finish I might not get both of them done tonight, but I'll try to get at least one done. So, okay? So everybody have fun working on Grateful Heart, and if you don't have it and you decide you want to make this, go ahead and it's up on the website. It's under the Janine Babish design, so you can get that. And then if you might want to try some more, there's all the rest of them are up there too. So, and then the stands, I put the 12 by 14 stand up, and I put up the heart-shaped hanger. The one I can get right now, this one's on back order, so I went ahead and got the little heart ones. They're really cute, and those are up there on the website, so you can get the little hanger if you want it. Okay, so I think we're done for this evening, and I will go ahead and finish this, and I'll put my thread colors up, and I will put a picture of my finished design up as soon as I get it done tonight. So, all right, and I also we're going to have a scan and cut class in a couple of weeks, and you need to have your roll feeders activated. So we're going to use the roll feeder. So I'm going to put a video up on either tonight or tomorrow about the roll feeder and how to activate premium functions on your software. Don't forget, because Lynn's doing a Janine Babish design at the end of the month. She's doing one of the little try ones, the little triple ones, and it's the happy birthday one. It's called It's Your Day. So if you haven't signed up for that, sign up for that. I think, what day is that, Lynn? It's the last Thursday of the month, whatever day that is. It's up on the website too. So yeah, so Lynn's doing It's Your Day, and it's the smaller Janine Babish ones. So we're going to do that too. Okay, Thanks, everybody. So we'll be seeing you next week. And if you have any questions, let me know. Good night, everybody. Thank you.